Hello, and welcome to Decom World's latest webinar on late life asset optimization. My name is Owen Roll, and I'll be acting as the chairperson for this session. As many of you kind of may well know already, I've been responsible for putting together the 12th annual Decom World Summit, and this is the second in our kind of four-part webinar series that I've put together in collaboration with the event. This year we'll actually be putting together a brand new late life asset management track at Decom World, powered by ABS Group, which is going to be around kind of all things late life asset and asset extension. So this webinar feeds really nicely into that. There's over 500 of you kind of already signed up today. So obviously thanks very much for the great response, and then thanks in advance to our panelists as well for kind of taking the time out. So a bit of very brief housekeeping before we get going. The webinar will last about 45 to 50 minutes. It's being recorded. There'll be full audio recordings and presentations within a week or so, so watch out for those, and obviously pass it on to any of your colleagues, clients, or kind of anyone in the community that didn't kind of get the chance to sign up in advance. You do have the facility to ask questions. Then as the chairman, I'll be there to go through those and try and get to as many of those as we can. There's a chat function there, and you can add through the question box. The purpose of today's session really is to kind of take a closer look at methods of late life optimization from both the operator perspective and also from the vendor and the service provider perspective as well, and understand how really also technology may hold the key to cost optimization. Joining me today to address these issues, we have Luis Batala from Repsol Sinopec. He's the decommissioning manager there. And also Neil Pickering, the Global Service Line Director for Asset Management at Bureau Veritas. If at any point, you did want to ask those questions, remember, add them into the text box, and we'll get to those at the end. I think that's more than enough from me, and really, without further ado, let's move on to our panelists. We're going to hand over to Luis first, so really, without further ado, Luis, over to you.
Thank you very much, Juan, for your introduction. So, we will speak here a little bit about what our experience on late life asset management optimization within Repsol Sinopec Resources UK. So, as you must know, or you should know, or you maybe know, that the decommissioning liabilities in the UKCS, according to the last UK Oil and Gas Authority report, amounts for 50 billion pounds. Around that will be 40 to 50% of that will be paid by the UK taxpayer. In that context, Repsol Sinopec Resources UK has the biggest decommissioning portfolio in the UKCS. So, but on the other hand, we are still one important producer in the UKCS. We are still producing 100,000 barrels per day, and then so we have an interest of optimizing our post-COP or even late life asset running costs, not just to optimize the cost of our decommissioning liabilities, but also to keep us being a profitable company as it is now, and to increase the value of the company going forward. So we have a poll question here about for the audience to get answers from the audience on what they think or what they know about the decommissioning liabilities in the UKCS that are linked to post-COP running costs. That is the question that we have for the audience here. So you can launch that, Owen.
Absolutely, let's get that up.
So that is basically for you to get let's say to have some level of interaction with you to understand what is your level of understanding on what is the liabilities that are linked to post-COP running costs. What I will say is that is significance for sure. The total value is you have one of the options there to pick up in between 1 or 2, 2 or 3, 3 or 4, or 4 or 5. Whatever the number is very big, no matter if it is from 1 to 2 to 4 to 5. But I would say that is in the higher end of the range. Let's say that Any answers there, Owen?
Yeah, perfect. I think we've got well over half now, so let's see what people say.
So yeah, well, almost there. So I think the people vote with very. I think the people that is in the audience is very informed, I would say. But the current value that the last OGA survey saw, it is around 3.5 billion pounds. That is around 7% of the total liabilities in the UKCS. For RSR UK, that percentage is higher than 7%. So our total cost, our total decommissioning liabilities linked to post-COP running costs in our current books is around 11% of the total decommissioning liabilities that we have in the books. If we put that together with our liabilities linked to well abandonment, we sum up to 60% of our 60% of our decommissioning liabilities are linked to well abandonment and post-COP running costs. So for us, the primary focus in order to reduce the decommissioning liabilities and the decommissioning costs is on the, of course, in the well abandonment side, but in the second instance is in the post-COP running costs. So far, we have been able to reduce. Let's say from our baseline, that is 2016, we have been able to reduce 41% of our decommissioning liabilities linked to the post-COP running costs. That is well above of the average in the UKCS since then. The average in the reduction in the UKCS on this element since 2016 has been 14%. We are in the 40% range. We have achieved that through constant challenge of our maintenance and integrity management strategies, and also through the knowledge that we got during these last years on the management of post-COP assets. No? In order to be able to achieve that optimization, so far and in the future, the main, let's say, factor that we see is the need of changing our mindset from. So, and there is a human factor behind that mindset change. So, normally in the ultra late life and late life assets, the team that is running the asset is a mixture in between young people, but mainly people that has been managing those assets for decades. So, a lot of them has been seeing the asset running since the first day. So I think that the transition period needs to be established in which you will give enough time to the team that is running the assets and has the knowledge of the asset to be educated on so they can understand what is the new situation of the asset that they have been living with for years. For us, it's basic that the knowledge of the people and engagement of the people will be granted, because is where we think we got the most value to reduce the cost of the asset, running cost of the asset going forward. So that is knowledge of the people in the asset plus value-driven management philosophy. Value-driven management philosophy, let's say. So one of the other items that is key for us in order to reduce the post-COP running costs has been the rationalization of the plan, let's say, rationalization of the top size of the platform. So you can be focused on maintaining the asset integrity and as well the equipment on the top size that are really needed for post-COP operations. That rationalization needs to be done with how we like to say, maybe a low-cost approach. So we need to rationalize the plan that is needed to be used for post-COP operations, but trying to challenge the norm in the way you will do it if you are running an asset that is in their earlier stages of life. So, looking at how others have been doing the things elsewhere in the UKCS or around the world has been another source of knowledge that has allow us to achieve that target that we have already achieved and that we are planning to achieve going forward. That looking at others, meaning looking at for sure the supply chain companies, services companies, or specialized companies as Bureau Veritas or any other service company that have knowledge on asset management. So for us, recognizing our knowledge, so recognizing what we know and what we don't know, was basic to achieve this step change in for COP asset management and, let's say, ultra late life asset management. Basically, we have pilot in 2 of our post-COP assets that are called Solter and Beatrice. The presentation that I will do in the Decon World in the following month of March will be very much focused on all the achievement that we have that we got on that 2 specific assets. That has been our, let's say, our basis for extrapolating and creating our optimized ultra late life management asset management, let's say. So I think I'm already finished with my speech. So I'm willing to receive any question or after Neil speech.
Perfect. Yeah, obviously, thanks a lot, Louis. That's really interesting. All the things you were saying now, and as you say, I can't wait to kind of hear more about that at Decon World next year. We have a couple of questions that have come in for Louis, but I think we should come back to those at the end. So obviously keep them coming in through that chat box there, and yeah, we can get to as many of those as possible. But really, at this point, I thought it would be great to hand over to Neil at Bureau Veritas to kind of hear about some of the exciting things they've been doing. So yeah, Neil, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Owen. I'm assuming everybody can see my screen, or will be able to shortly. Okay. Owen, can you see the screen all right? Because I'll take that as a litmus that everybody else can.
Absolutely, yeah. It's all good to go.
So Bureau Veritas, and what do they do in this space? Well, you can see there on the slide we have a strap line called Twintelligence, which is where we have spent quite a lot of time and effort bringing together expertise and technology in this digital world that we now live in. Because we believe that there's a huge amount of benefit that can be brought to this late life asset management and moving into decommissioning, digitalisation. So asset management in a digital world, what does that mean? What does that look like in terms of what BV can offer? Sorry, there we go. Sorry. Okay. Problem with the slide moving on there. So BV. So in a digital world, a digital solution perspective or context, and I'll go into a little bit of the history in the next few slides. But they offer a number of digital solutions in this space. And so what is it that BV supply? One of their digital solutions is called Veristat AIM 3D, which is a digital twin. It's a box product, and I will say that up front because many of the digital twins that are out there are in development and require development along the way. This is a box product, no development required, flexible and configurable. So it's a digital solution to optimize cost through the standardization approach. So like I say, again, box product, you simply go and use it. The analogy I use is you go and buy an app for your phone because you want it and you just use it. It's a collaborative platform, and that's important that everybody can see the same information. That's one of the great benefits that this brings. Everybody sees the same information. So you can get major efficiency gains right the way down your supply chain. Digital twin will provide much needed clarity and history of the current condition and performance. So this is a visualization of your data in whatever system it sits. The benefits of a fully integrated twin, they commence at first installation. Now, you can apply this at any stage of the life cycle, so from design right the way through to decommissioning. You can do that. So that will enhance forward planning, scenario planning, and simulation in this space. Simulation is another area where we know that a huge amount of benefit can be brought into this scenario. So asset management, what's it all about? I'm not going to try and teach people. As you can see there's the entire life cycle of an asset. Asset management is quite often inextricably mixed in the same sentence as asset integrity. Asset integrity is a part of asset management, but it's not asset management. So asset management certainly in BV's world is about optimum balance and return on investment. So it's about managing performance assurance and integrity assurance. So as you can imagine, if you focus on one or the other, you do so at the risk of integrity breach or performance failure. Now, Veristar AIMS 3D is specifically designed to enable that to happen on clients' assets. So again, here, Veristar AIMS 3D is applicable at any stage of the life cycle, but what we're here to talk about today is late life asset management. Late life asset management kind of starts to appear around about halfway through the operate maintain cycle, when COP is on or just over the horizon. It's come off plateau, production is starting to decline, and that's when we think is a sweet spot for mature basins for Veristar AIMS 3D. Late life is an element of the cycle. Veristar AIMS 3D can be applied at any stage, as I've already said, and in mature basins, we think there's a huge amount of benefit to be had on this. So where did it all come from? How did BV get to where they are now? So in 2015, as I'm sure many companies did in this industry, and they compiled and issued a digitalisation strategy. So they did that by partnering with a company called Dassault Systems in Paris, who are basically a high-end software producer. They are very big. If you Google them, you'll find that they're big in aerospace, military, and a number of other industries, automotive. Funnily enough, when I first joined BV and I went to speak to these guys in Paris, they were very amused the fact that the oil and gas industry had not already undertaken this digitalization aspect, because every other industry sector already had and had been using it for many years, and as a result they got many benefits. The first stage that they went through was interviews and investigation. So they went around a bunch of clients and asked them the question, from a digital services perspective or a digitalization perspective, what is it that you would expect and what is it that you want? So they had client experience in there. They had they then, out of that, became 3 products, which one was connected asset, one was connected surveyor, which from a classification perspective for BV is one that's used quite extensively, and the other one was the digital twin Veristar AIMS 3D. So out of the investigation interviews, they came up with a problem statement. I'm sure it'll resonate with a number of people that are listening to this. So problem statement, in the world that we live in, it's not easy to access data held in other systems. So quite often you find that operator organizations have information in a number of systems, whether that be inspection data, whether that be supply chain data, or whatever. Accept that a lot of them have ERPs. However, you do find that the data is still all over the place. Struggle to digest to make sense of the volume of data. We need information, not necessarily data. You know, up until the digitalization revolution that we're in, people spent inordinate amount of hours, me included, using spreadsheets, trying to crunch numbers and crunching data to get to the point where you can actually make an informed decision. That is a very manumatic, labor-intensive process. Not collecting the right data, not getting the right information. Need to dashboard leading indicators of equipment problems. We've all got dashboards of some description that takes it to the next level. Need to track equipment reliability, decisions being made more on experience and gut feel than based on reliable information. Need to balance assurance and performance and manage based on risk, not prescription. So visualization in the Veristar AIMS 3D product, that is a possibility. So when defining, the business drivers, when defining scenarios of digital twin, the usage, the business drivers for the operating unit must be a key factor. So as you can imagine, it has to add value to your organisation. The digital twins don't necessarily fit all scenarios. In the decommissioning space, which is an area that we are actively in at the moment, a decommissioning twin, for instance, would not be the same as an operational twin. A late life twin would not be the same as an operational twin either. But it would enable you to actually start to manage your asset down a lot more efficiently and effectively. And in a decommissioning world, you could just have structures. You could have structures, primary jacket, primary structures, and secondary structures. So there's 3 levels of complexity in a twin. So ranging from 1 through 3, 1 being the simplest, 3 being the most detailed. 3 generally is applied in an operational scenario. So including but not limited to, the main scenario is maintain commitments to improving safety and environment. It does have a significant impact on safety. You can imagine that you can get into a digital twin world. People can actually virtually walk around your asset. If anything changes in a decommissioning perspective, i.e. bits of it have gone missing, so when somebody's been on their leave, you can re-induct them before they get offshore. Work packs can be done on a desktop. Supply chain can access the same information. So out of this exercise that was carried out in 2015-16, they then moved on to insights. So example insights visual. So a lot of the feedback that was given from the clients was, as an asset manager, I want to have vendors going offshore who have access to Google Street View of my assets, so they can do a lot of the preparation work before they actually go offshore. That can be done. As an asset manager, I want to be able to access my asset anywhere, anytime, on any device. Can be done. As a maintenance engineer, I want to be able to highlight systems and equipment in a visual model and of the assets so that I can quickly visualize connections, contextual interactions. Can be done. So all of these things can be done. As a work pack engineer, I want to use Google Street View of the assets so that I can do clash detection for new pipe spool I'm designing. Now, from a visual perspective as well, we can also bring to the party in this context simulation software. So a digital twin of an asset can then be visually and simulated in terms of construct and destruct. So you can imagine in a decommissioning perspective, if you can destruct your assets in a visual and virtual world before you actually anybody does anything on the asset, then you've got to realize significant gains. Operational, as a maintenance manager, I want to be able to visualize and monitor current and historical trends of equipment performance. Can be done. As an integrity engineer, I want to be able to apply strain gauges to hull plates, FPSOs obviously, so that I can accurately monitor hull fatigue. Can be done. As a shore-based operations engineer, I want to quickly troubleshoot equipment remotely with others so that I can reduce the production impact of trips. Can be done. In both operations and therefore like asset management and decom, through visualization, significant efficiency gains are being achieved, and through simulation, optimal logistics and workflows can be achieved as a minimum. Windows of opportunity in terms of heavy lift can be optimized. So time in the field of barges, vessels, etc., can be optimized. This all amounts to cost savings and cost reduction. In an operational late life context, you can manage down your asset through system boundaries, through equipment, and you can then start your decom preparation in your late life asset management process. Integrity. So as an inspection engineer, I want to be able to use drone data and feed that into the model. Can be done. As an inspection engineer, I want to use drones and ROVs to create an inspection model. Can be done. As an OIM, I want to be able to use as a barrier model with PSPI so that I can get a view of cumulative risk and can make an informed decision on whether it's safe to continue production. Can be done. And then lastly, as an operator, I want to be able to use a barrier model of PSPIs, collate from platform systems so that I can manage my Reg 5 obligations with respect to my regulator in the UK. can be done. Now, I know that there are other barrier models out there, bow tie, etc., but in a visualization of an entire asset, this results in significant improvement. So what does it look like? I'll just run this wee video here for you. This is just a simple OSV, offshore services vessel, but it just gives you an idea as to what a digital twin can look like. This is a very simple one, and this is part of a bigger demonstration that shows you two things. One, how you can go from flat drawings to 3D world, and two, how you can highlight, schedule, and plan an intervention on what the sea chest, which is on the far left there, that has a leak. It's relative, like I say, this is a box product. This doesn't need any development, and it can be used and developed from whatever information that you may have available in whatever system. So, contracts, benefits, actual and potential. This is what we have. We have 9 of them in production, in operation. These are all operational models. These are not late life, and they're not decom yet. None of them are in the UKCS, interestingly enough. One of those operators there that has taken on digital twin operations wise has reported back to us a 25% reduction in OPEX over a 5-year period. That's actual. Decommissioning wise, we've got a number of conversations and projects going on with OGTC and the OGA in the UK, and circa 12% per 1,000 tonne potential reduction result of adopting digital twins. Now, depending on who you speak to, it's anything between 1 million and greater than 2 million per 1,000 tonne of topsides to decommission. So that's 120,000 to 250,000 pounds worth of potential savings that could be realised in a decommissioning scenario. So in both operations and late life asset management, through visualisation, significant efficiency gains can be achieved, and through simulation, optimal logistics and workflow can be achieved as a minimum. So what does it cost? I know you're all thinking that this must be expensive. It's not. It can be. It's like I said already. There's 3 levels of complexity in this thing. 1 being very simple, 3 being complex down to terminal rail level if you want to go to that level. And it can either be priced per tonne of topsides, number of legs on a jacket for a jacket, or by tag number. And the operators I've spoken to so far are quite surprised at how inexpensive this is. I say again, it's a box product. This is not in development. This is ready and available. And I think, Owen, that's it.
Yeah. Brilliant. Again, thanks very much, Neil, for sharing that. I mean, one question that just kind of comes straight to mind, actually. Obviously, you mentioned the 25% reduction in OPEX there over the 5 years for an existing client, which is fine. And you also preferred a 12% potential saving for decommissioning. Could you elaborate on that a little bit more?
Yeah, sure. So what we did is we took the work breakdown structure that's in the public domain for decommissioning, and this excludes wells, by the way, because wells is about 49% of the cost. This doesn't cover wells. There's plenty of other people in that space doing that. So from all the other elements of work breakdown structure, we went through a process of evaluating against a digital twin what potential efficiency gains and benefits we could realise in this area. One big debate point was topsides removal, for instance. A big chunk of that is the vessel, in terms of the heavy lift vessel, and it was argued that, well, you can't reduce that. The day rate's the day rate. Well, we accept that. However, if we can optimise the time in field and optimise through simulation the logistics of the vessel entering and leaving the field, because in simulation mode we can actually add in weather windows and we could come up with scenario planning, then we could actually potentially knock days off that vessel being on hire. So it was all through the work breakdown structure, and we think 12% is a pretty conservative estimate.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's interesting. I guess, Luis, really naturally kind of back to you. We've heard a lot about kind of the solutions that Neil's provides with Bureau Veritas. Kind of how do you see the role of technology and digital solutions on the optimization of late life asset management? Luis? Yeah, I think Luis has just dropped out there actually. So I guess Neil, actually we've got a few.
I would add on that you know, in amongst all this as well, the time that we've been developing and putting this thing in place is this. The thing about digital twins is it's not a one size fits all, and there is a line at which it starts to add value, and there's a line below which it doesn't add any value. So part of the whole process is evaluating when a digital twin will add value. But it doesn't suit all. So for decommissioning, for instance, we've said anything 5,000 tonne and below, probably not worth doing. Anything 5,000 tonne and above, probably worth looking at.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. I think we've actually got Luis back on the line now.
Yeah. But... So what I was trying to say is that so we have used the technologies and digital solutions for the optimization of our late life and ultra late life assets. So we have used it. We have used all this technology that we have used. That includes also renewable energy and digital visualization tools of the operations and all that. We use them as an enabler for running our operations. So in reality, some of that technology that we have used has been crucial in order to achieve the savings. Probably if they weren't existing, if they were not exist, then we won't be able to achieve the savings that we achieve. But we put a lot of emphasis and we are proud of that. Let's say that the main we see technology and digital solutions as enablers, but we see the value of the knowledge in the people that has been running the assets and the mindset, the chain of mindset. So looking at late life or ultra late life as a different monster, if you want, to be operated is key. Then the technologies, we have been using the support of the supply chain as well to give us ideas and inputs on what were the technologies that we could use that fit our requirements. But it was, let's say that we see technology and digital solutions as an enabler rather than being the center of all the solutions of all the problems. No? So yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you mentioned as well that kind of working with supply chain. Is that something that you're kind of doing actively at Repsol Sinopec, or equally are you kind of looking at developing technologies yourself?
No, we are working together for the development of technologies. We are working together with the supply chain and with the Oil and Gas Technology Center. So we are one active player on the Decommissioning Solution Center in the Oil and Gas Technology Center in the OGTC in the UK. And that they are doing a very good job on facilitating that and engagement in between the operators and the supply chain. And we have another work stream to develop technology as well that is linked to our sister company in Brazil, Repsol Sinopec Brazil. We work together with them as well as a result of the levy that the production that the operators need to pay in Brazil with regards to development of R&D. So we are producers in Brazil, and as part of that, so we need to pay some of our revenues need to go to R&D according to the Brazilian regulations. So we are using that as well to develop technologies in conjunction with the supply chain and the universities in Brazil to develop technologies that are fit for the commissioning purpose.
Sure. No, that's interesting. I mean, just touching on again, really on supply chain, Neil. Kind of, how do you think, in really kind of in specifics, then digital twin can kind of add value into that supply chain?
Yeah, I mean, what we found is that because the way this thing, so first and foremost, the Mercedes 3D is not designed to replace anything. It sits in amongst whatever systems a client has, and it pulls data out and it visualizes it. So if you can imagine that if everybody is looking at the same information, right, now the client can choose to give different access rights to different parts of the supply chain. But if the supply chain is looking at exactly the same information in a visual world as the engineers in the operator organization, and they can literally walk with the engineer and they can point to this is what we want you to quote us for, you can get through egress, access and egress, staging. You can understand exactly what the magnitude of the task is, because inevitably what happens now is a supplier is given 100, 1,000 drawings and say, give us a price. They come up with contingencies of all sorts of descriptions in their quote, and then when the job starts, they say, oh well, okay, the price is going up because we didn't know that was there, or we didn't know we couldn't get in there. In this scenario, the supply chain has got complete and utter visualization of what the job is, and there is no excuses for then. And from an operator perspective, they can then credibly start to push certain supplies towards fixed price, lump sum thing, and no contingency pricing. So it's all about everybody seeing the same information, whether you're a supplier, an operator, a construction, a destruction, a regulator. They're all looking at exactly the same information, and they can all be sat in different places in the world looking at exactly the same information. So that's really where we've found that there's massive gains to be had from a supply chain perspective.
Absolutely, absolutely. Just a question that's actually just come in here now, a slight change of tack, but to Luis. Given the age and condition of UKCS assets, are we realistic that it's technically and economically better to repurpose assets than to buy new? And if so, what assets do you think are kind of most attractive to repurposing?
You mean the question is about repurposing the assets for carbon capture or things like that, or any kind of repurposing?
Yeah, I believe so. I believe that's what the question is asking.
I mean, yeah, well, I would really, I kind of agree a little bit with what this means, what the question is trying to introduce. So, yeah, the UKCS infrastructure is old, as we know all. Extension of life of assets can be done. That is for sure. It's all depending on the demand that, let's say, on the repurposing. I mean, on the purpose of the repurposing of the assets. So, if it is to install, let's say, heavy equipment on top of the platforms, and so the duty requirements on the platforms are going to be very, very high, then it's very unlikely maybe that the platforms will be able to withstand that. No, if the requirements are light with regards to the load that you will put in the platforms or in the pipelines, then it's much easier. So it's all depending on the level of utilization that you will need to do of the existing infrastructure, I would say. On the other hand, not all can be repurposed, I would say. So one of the things that is being discussed lately in the UKC is about repurposing the oil and gas facilities for carbon capture. I mean, let's say the biggest cost of that will be linked probably to the wells itself, to the wells that you will use to re-inject the CO2 in the reservoir, and even the infrastructure that you will need to transport the CO2 from the source to the sink. So I think those are the biggest challenges related with using oil and gas infrastructure in the UKCS or repurposing infrastructure in the UKCS for CO2 storage. I think it's more related with the cost linked to the wells that you will need to drill or repurpose for CO2 injection, and also the cost of the infrastructure that you need to build to bring the CO2 from the source to the sink. I think that will be the biggest bottleneck, rather than extending the life of a platform or of a pipeline.
Sure. I mean, scaling back a little bit then in terms of kind of the life cycle, when, if you could kind of put a time on it, when do you really think is the right moment to transition from an asset in kind of late life production management into real kind of ultra late life decom management?
So I think that the decision need to be done or need to happen, or will need to start as soon as you think that as you know that the asset is going to become an economic in a, let's say, in a 3 years window. So there is always a lot of uncertainty on how to define the COP, because that is very much linked to the company position in a specific moment, and also to the price of oil. But you can have a good understanding if an asset is going to be uneconomic in the following 3 years. That will trigger I would say that will be the ideal point for triggering the transition of the asset from late life operations or production operations to late life or ultra late life asset management, and going into the commissioning. That will give you enough time to start thinking on what is going to be the post-COP mode of operation, and to not just to think about it, but also to define it in a way that you will be ready to execute the modifications that you need in the day one after COP. Modifications that will encompass not just physical modifications in the platform, but also organizational changes that are linked to maybe reducing the POV in the platforms and things like that. All these activities that are linked to that will affect people need to be done with enough time, so you can make your best in order to relocate that people in other sites or in other platforms or in other functions within the company. So I think 3 years before knowing that you are going to go that you are going to be an economic is the best. It will give you enough time to plan all these activities.
Sure. Yeah, thanks for kind of that detailed response, actually, Luis. I mean, just really to switch it back over to Neil, we just had a question come in. How was that actual 5-year cost reduction achieved when the system's only actually been in use since the early 2017s? Is that based on kind of
no? That's what they've done based on their cost savings to date. They're projecting it over the next 5 years, which is the life of the license agreement, I guess, in terms of what they've got, which is renewable at the end of 5 years. So where did they get them from? As far as I understand, and the discussions I've had with people in Paris who have been speaking direct with a client, is there's a number of, so they've actually managed to improve their workflow management. They've actually managed to improve their supply chain process, and they've actually managed to optimize their crew and skill mix as a result of this. So within all of them, they're telling us that there'll be a 25% reduction in OPEX over the next 5 years. Now, we don't have the detail for obvious reasons, because they're not going to give us that, but we asked for feedback and that's what they told us. So they're looking at a 25% reduction in the next 5 years.
Okay, sure. I mean, quite a slightly more technical question has come in here. Do you follow the CFI-HOS standard? If yes, how hard is it for your business? Do you have a single master data model for all cases, or do you tailor and develop your kind of MDM for each project?
I have no idea what a CFI model is.
No,
if that's an IT question from an IT professional, then you're talking to the wrong guy.
Okay, yeah, no, I would echo that, but obviously the kind of whoever sent it in that question, if you've got a bit of clarification, then obviously do send it through again. I guess just to stay with you again, Neil, really, can you optimize the contractor kind of not pricing day rate, but instead pricing value of a job?
Sorry, say that again.
So the question is, can you optimize the contractor not pricing the day rate, but the value of the job?
Oh, right. Okay. So I guess it depends on your contractor strategy, but the simple answer is yes, you could.
Yeah.
But it depends on your contracted and commercial strategy and your relationship with the contractors that you've got. But I mean, once you get, I would say this, once you have the level of visualization that is required and the operator wants, you can play all sorts of tunes. And this is where the disruption factor comes in, because you can actually disrupt an awful lot of traditional workflows, contracting strategies, commercial process. You could actually really turn it on its head. Because like I say, if the supply chain is looking physically at what they are being asked to do, then I think the question is going from, well, rather than give us a day rate, we're going to take 10 days to do this, it'll cost you this, plus materials and markup. Give us a price for doing that, and yes is the answer. But the problem is that because, and this is where, this is where it's really telling in the UKCS. I've spent 30 plus years in this industry, and they're very slow on the uptake in when it comes to new ways of doing things. Whereas the models that we've sold that are out there are in international waters. They're not in the UKCS. But there is a huge opportunity to get to a point where you can actually completely, radically change your contracting strategy with your supply chain.
Okay. Yeah, no, interesting. I think one that's just actually come in for Luis, I think off the back of that kind of last discussion we were having, really. So just to switch back, when we talk about that kind of transition between different phases of the life cycle, so I guess from kind of operation to late life to ultra late life decom, how do you ensure that different departments kind of work together, and how important is that process of transitioning between each kind of silo, as it were, in order to really optimize performance and ultimately really to kind of optimize savings?
Yeah. I think that is linked to what I mentioned when I was doing my initial speech. So people knowledge on the asset, not only on the, let's say, on the onshore operations team, but also in the offshore operations team, and basically mainly them. So you need to be able to engage with them effectively, and you need to honor their knowledge, and you need to make them part of your, let's say, of the evolution of the asset to a new mode of operation. So that for me is key. Engaging of the people that has been running the asset for years is key. The difficulty sometimes is the mindset, because as I said before, there is a lot of people on those assets that has been working those assets for years, and they have been focused all the time on production, and getting the production as soon as possible, and the maximum production as soon as possible. So that is a little bit different whenever you are doing ultra late life. The production is not, you want to produce, but you want to produce efficiently. So your driver is, let's say, profitable barrels rather than a lot of barrels, no? So that is the biggest difficulty that we have. But I think when I'm saying that, is the biggest difficulty is to try to change the mindset of people that has been doing something for years. So I think in some way the management philosophy need to change. The people having the knowledge need to be there and need to be part of the team. But let's say the management of the people that is managing this transition need to be effective in the way they communicate, so the people having the knowledge understand how they need to move, so they can give the best of them for the success of the transition to ultra late life and late life. But it's basic that you get that that you get that knowledge, but it's also basic that you and make them understand that they need to be delivering a different product. And that is because I think is the 3 years period is good enough for working with them and changing their mindset. So you can get the best benefit of all of us.
Absolutely. Really now just to flip back over to Neil, a question: how many assets have you used your technology on? I actually think you did actually pop up a slide earlier.
Yeah.
But is it applicable offshore as well?
Sorry? They're all floating. They're all the 8 that I showed were they're all floating, either FPSOs or FSUs, and there's varying degrees of complexity on these assets. So, but we haven't yet got a fixed asset, which is when we do, will be a feather in our cap, because that'll be the first time we've got a fixed asset. A fixed asset will probably be a lot simpler than an FPSO, actually.
Sure. And do you think there's a point at which a digital twin really kind of stops adding value?
Yeah, absolutely there is. And that's all part of the discovery journey once a client decides to venture on down this route. And that's part of the process we go through with them. Because the first, what do you want to use it for? And there are absolutely, some, you know, in a decommissioning world, for instance, a single wellhead riser, you wouldn't put a digital twin in place. Why would you? You just take the vessel out and take it away. But if you've got a Magnus or a Thistle, then very complex, very old, ugly assets. Like I say, from a decommissioning perspective, 5,000 ton and below, we think probably not worth it. Pre-Crine, anybody's old enough to remember the Crine era, is probably worth it. Post-Crine, technically, theoretically, they're all integrated decks, single lift on, single lift off. However, some of them have been modified and upgraded along the way, so they may not be as simple as they were when I'm putting them in. So yeah, absolutely, there is a point at which it adds value and a point at which it doesn't. We are not selling this to everybody and anybody. There's a process we go through saying, right, what is it you want to use it for? And at the end of it, the decision might be, do you know what, it's not going to do what we want it to do.
Sure. Look, guys, it's been a really kind of interesting discussion, and obviously thanks so much for both kind of sharing those insights and kind of sharing your time as well with us today. That is actually, unfortunately, all we have time for. We'll have to wrap it up there. But as I say, there's been kind of a lot of questions coming in from everyone, and a lot more information about the kind of request for information about the topics discussed. So, you know, do come to the Decom World Conference next year. All these things are going to be talked about some more. As I say, Luis will be giving a presentation, and Vivi should be there as well, getting involved for 2020. So to hear more from our speakers and obviously the rest of the community, you know, do get along. We've got over 30 E&P companies already signed up. We've got delegations from kind of all the major contractors and international regulators as well. So it's looking like a really great event, and obviously with Thomson Reuters backing nowadays, it's looking like a really massive one for 2020. Again, thanks Luis and Neil for participating today. I'm sure everybody found their insights kind of highly valuable. You'll all have full access to the recordings, as I did touch upon earlier. So obviously do share those with your colleagues, your clients, and the rest of your community. As I said, we're putting a brand new track together on this exact topic at Decom World next year, which will be the first time we've included it. So, you know, get the word out there, spread this up, spread it all as much as possible. But as I say, again, lastly, thanks to everybody for tuning in and you know, taking the time out of your day this afternoon as well. I hope you found it valuable, and I'm sure you did. So, as I say, thanks Neil and thanks Luis. And yeah, good.
For the opportunity.
Thank you.